this evening is an amazing person. I consider it a privilege personally to know him. Plus, he's helping me to learn more about how I can better my own life. I love listening to his teachings and reading his books. He is recognized, very honorably if I may say so, as one of the top 25 psychic mediums in the United States. Now think about that. All those people claim to be psychic mediums. He's in the top 25. You may have seen him on the Sci-Fi Network, the Travel Channel, CBS. He's been on Sirius Radio Network. Boy, and he even has his own podcast. He's the founder of Life's Gifts, Inc., which we'll also talk about. Tonight we are talking to the author as we try to cover two of his books. The first one is You're Not Crazy, You Have a Ghost. And the second one, which I'm sorry, is one of my personal favorite books, Stepping Stones, Thoughts Along Life's Path. So let's make sure we have all of this now. He's an author, speaker who talks at many events and colleges, a life coach, a father, a podcaster, a business owner, and a very accredited psychic medium. But besides all of those titles, it's a pleasure to welcome someone I truly consider a good friend, Rick Hayes. Well, welcome everyone to the show today. I bet you didn't expect that kind of intro, did you?
I didn't, and I thank you very much, my friend. I was looking at it and I thought, I look a little younger on there. Thank you very much.
Well, we were talking earlier, you saw all that hair that you had, and the very last picture that's on there, with you standing there, is me sitting there, and you can see the hair going away at the top of my head, which I thought was actually kind of humorous. So it's like, yeah. But, it's amazing. As I got older, when we first started doing the show, I could read that live and make it through with zero problems. As I got older, it takes me like 7 times recording that to get it to go through all the way without any kind of mistakes happening and stuff. So it's safer that way. Plus, I'm also able to throw in a lot of old pictures and books that we're talking about.
Shall we take off the hat and show them what you did?
Yes, exactly. Yes, I actually took the rest of it off. So, this way I don't have to worry about it anymore. And plus, it's hot right now.
Yeah.
Well,
I shared with you before we came on. You shared that with me before we came on. I said, well, my hairline's receding, but the rest of me is succeeding. So good.
That's the main thing, is that we succeed.
That's right.
So anyway, thank you for coming on our show tonight.
You're welcome.
Let our listeners give them some information about yourself. I mean, when did you realize that you had psychic abilities?
Well, I was born with them. I share this a lot, that we're all born with abilities, and we're born with talents and skills and abilities. And for those of you listening and watching tonight, just know that apply those in your life in some way, because it will enrich your life. It will bring you a more purposeful life as well. So I recognized them early in my life. I knew I was born with them. I recognized them early. To be able to see, hear, feel, and acknowledge those in the next part of life. But being in a community I was in, and being the way the society was, I just kept them to myself. I didn't. My family knew. We just didn't talk about them. And up until about I've been out in the industry now for going on 21 years, and wow, it's been I like sharing this. It's been a phenomenal 21 years. Just things happening, and it's just been a great life. But I could recall. I remember one time, I recall as a young kid, I was probably about 6, 7, 8 years old, and we was at a friend's home. My parents, my brother, my sister, myself, and we were visiting someone and some friends, and my dad and this other guy was standing next to the stove in the kitchen. I was at the table. And they were talking about this guy who recently had passed away, and they both knew him. And my dad didn't know that he had passed away 4 weeks ago before that. And I'm standing there watching these two talking, and I thought, why aren't they talking to the other guy standing right next to them? I couldn't understand why he wasn't in the conversation. And so I remember that. That's one time I remember. But I grew up with these abilities. I was in the corporate world for many, many years, but I just, at the time, I recognized them, but I just didn't talk about them. And so I am very blessed in the last 20 plus years to be able to share and serve and help others and share the messages from those in the next part of life.
Could you imagine if you would have been doing this a lot earlier too, how much more you could have shared that those messages with people? Because that's got to
You
be
know,
it's got to be awesome. I mean, I watched you Saturday, and it's not the first time we've been to one of your live galleries, and I just watch the people's reactions that are there
you,
because it's heartwarming to them that they're able to still communicate with either their mom or someone who has passed. I mean, it's got to feel good on your side.
It is. I share with everyone. First of all, what you mentioned earlier, Rhonda, my assistant, and I were talking about that just over the weekend about how, and I think I brought it up on Saturday that the first year I was out and sharing this and serving and helping others, the first year in public, I actually, Rhonda and I was sitting and we was having dinner or something. And I said, with it's such an inspiration. I said, I wish I would have done this 20 years ago when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Her exact words to me was, Rick, it wasn't the right time. And I look back now, and that was a very profound statement she made because if she was right, if I'd done it 20 years earlier, I probably would. It probably may not have been the right time for society. It may not. Spirituality is grown, is opened up more. People are being more open with things, and so it wasn't the right time. And but I've realized now for the last 20 years, and what to answer your question on the second part, every day I'm spirit. I always share. I'm spiritually inspired. I'm physically tired at the end of the day. I sleep well when I sleep, but I'm always spiritually inspired because the messages you receive and the validation we get, it from those in the mess and get receiving the messages is just it's inspiration. That's what it is.
And I can relate to actually what you're saying because I know and some of the people know Jen is the same way,
Mhm.
and even in a small town, we are talking about small towns, they're still looked at kind of strange. It's from a distance, okay? Some people just don't want to talk about it that are here. I mean, I get it, but those that say, okay, no, that's against our religion or something like that, by the same token, 20 minutes later, are asking, what
Yeah.
about, it because it happens to you too. So it's one of those things that you're right. Society today is much more open to it. I say the same thing about the paranormal. When I started doing the paranormal 45 years ago, somewhere in there, I was like 17 years old.
I was going to say, were you about six?
Yeah. Well, I'm your age, believe it or not, because I
Oh,
heard you say how old you were on Saturday. Um, you know, when we look back to then, yes, I was looking for the spirits. I could hear them. I actually saw a full bodied apparition walk by me, which piqued my interest in it. But I even spoke to Jason and Grant Wilson, and I think it was actually Grant Wilson from Ghost Hunters. And I thanked him when I met him, and he goes, "For what?" I was like, "Well, you opened the doors for the rest of us." So we weren't these geeky people who were really, really weird that was doing this. It actually helped us tremendously by making it a little more acceptable. And I'm sure that's what you're experiencing too, is now people are much wide open and receptive to it. Whereas I think you mentioned about like Baptist church or something where you were, and I can only imagine what they would have been saying about you then.
yeah, and that primarily is why I just kept it to myself. I have a church upbringing. I shared this past Saturday
Mm-hmm.
at the master class that I grew up in a church upbringing. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my grandfather, who was evangelist and minister. But it wasn't so much that it was their teachings. It wasn't so much that I was being condemned for it. It was more of their teaching and their beliefs. And I struggled with that personally because, I say this straight up. I didn't back at that time. I didn't want to go against God. I love God,
Hmm.
so, and I couldn't understand what I had. If it was wrong, why was it wrong? And so I just, as years got more in my life and I started getting into more research of religion itself and then what I was given, I felt more and more comfortable with it. And I'm seeing that as a whole. I'm seeing that where individuals are saying, yeah, we're going to church. Yes, this is what the church is teaching us. I'm absolutely not saying anything against the church itself. But what I'm saying is individuals are becoming more, I want to say more open and more wanting to know more and than just what they were taught and we're seeing that more and more in this society. And I shared that this Saturday. We're seeing an elevation. We're seeing a vibration of spiritual self that we haven't experienced before.
I laughed because I had seen Teresa Caputo once, and she's a devout Catholic. And I remember her saying at the show, she goes, "The Catholic Church looks down on what I do, but they still take my money every week when I go to church." I mean, that's it. My, even my brother's wife is a little bit. She's doesn't discuss it with us. And we respect that. If
Yep.
they're for whatever reason people feel that way, hey, I don't force it on anyone. Like you don't force it on
Mhm.
anybody. You either want to know more and believe, or you don't. And I
Right.
say the word believe because that's. I mean, I still have your shirt, believe it or not, and I meant to go look for it tonight because it's in the closet somewhere. But the very first time I met you was at Keith Age's Mid South that he had inside. There was this little, it was a big hotel, but everybody was in this little room, and door prizes were being given out. And I won the door prize. That was your shirt,
Oh,
the Believe shirt.
yeah.
And I think I sent you a picture of it too
Yep.
when I had gotten it. Thanking for the shirt. So, but I'm going to go into Life's Gift in a few minutes. I really want to start with the books too.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, and we will talk about first. You're not crazy. You have a ghost. Okay. When I did the promo for that, me and my jokiness, I almost wanted to say something, and I stuttered over words for a second because it's like, no, focus on what's written there, Steve. Okay, don't say anything else that's on there. But as a paranormal investigator, I think it's a very interesting book
Thank you.
because explain a little bit how the concept of the book. Let's start that.
Well, that was written several years ago now, and I'm happy to say they're still selling. So, uh, but I was actually not actually out in the public with my abilities at that time, and I had a coworker that we was working in a corporate world, and I always love saying this when I say corporate world. I am so happy to be out of the corporate world.
You don't want the
So,
suit and tie anymore. Okay.
but I overheard this. It's actually my co-writer for that book. I overheard her talking to some of the others. They just moved into this home that was built in 1906, Victorian style home, beautiful home. And she was sharing with the others how they just moved in just a few days before, and they was already talking about moving out because they were having some crazy things going on there. And so I couldn't help overhearing her. And at the time, nobody knew about my abilities. I hadn't talked about anyone about it. And so I went up to her actually, and I said, Karen, I said, I heard about you talking about your house. I'd love to see your house because I knew the house, and I'd love to see inside it. And I know someone that lives there now. And so she invited me over. So when I got there, I immediately was connecting with someone there. And we got to talking a little bit. And finally, I just shared with her, I said, I want to share this with you. I've got these abilities. I don't talk about it. And we started talking, and she started telling me all the things going on in the house. And I said, do you mind if we walk around? She said, no. Well, then that led to me going back there several times. And we come to find out it was the original owner who built the home. And we actually, in the book, you can see her daughter. One experience was her daughter was doing a steam, doing a project for school, and it was water boiling to steam. And
Hmm.
they took a picture of the steam, and here's this original owner's face right in the steam. And they went to the library and they compared him, and it was him. But what we found out was that he was there, and before they moved in, the individuals that moved in there before had really turned it into a nightmare. It had purple walls and green walls, and they were trying to convert it back to how it was originally, back to the old wallpaper, and but during that time, they were getting things like they would come downstairs in the mornings, and every drawer in the kitchen cabinet in the kitchen was open. They had blood stains appearing on their stairway. They had a little child at the time, and the child was actually a balloon would follow him around behind him, and so we worked on it. We found out they were getting ready to leave. They were getting ready to move out. Like within 2 weeks of moving in there, they was ready to move out. And once we just started connecting with this individual and started understanding, he was trying to help them. He was trying to show them what they need to change, how he didn't like it how it was before. And so when we started working with him and started working and them working with us, uh, they became more and more comfortable. And so one evening we'd been there for I've been there several times, and one evening they had told me that they were now going to stay at home. They were fine with him being there as long as they respected it, if he respected them, they were fine with that. And she looked at me and she said, "You know what, Rick?" She said, "I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but you ought to write a book about this." She said, "Because I know I'm not the only ones in a house like this." And I said, "You know what? That'd be great." And I said, "Never thought of that, but it'd be great." And I said, "Why don't you write it with me?" And her words was, she said, "Yeah, because I know I'm not crazy. I have a ghost." And I said, "That'd be a great title for the
There
book."
you go.
And so they actually lived there for almost 7 years. After that, they were still having that activity, but they knew who it was. They knew they weren't being harmed, and they lived comfortably with the individual. And he wasn't doing it as much as he was as time went on, but he was still there. And the last, I actually got to go there. Someone was investigating the home. They had new owners, and someone was investigating the home. They were having activity there, and we had an opportunity a couple years ago to go back through there, and that was fun. I
Was it the same entity that was there in
yes,
the house? Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
and yeah, it makes sense if you knew the guy. He's very prominent in the town. It's a small town, very prominent in the town, and very proud of the home that he built. It was like a showplace there at the town at the time, so it made sense to me when you know the owners came in before and made the changes in the home and how he wasn't happy with it. And so, but he's still there.
Well, the book is almost it's written as it's Kay Coons, right, that wrote the
Hmm.
book with you. You
Karen.
Karen, okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Well, it just says Kay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Karen would write a little chapter about what was happening
Hmm.
in the home, and then you would write about what was actually going on, what they were experiencing, and then it's also like a workbook.
Yes. And we designed it that way just because we were going to give something to those that, because I'm sorry, but TV makes everything that goes bump in the night in a home or any old home is automatically haunted. And it's automatically, oh, you need to get out of there. And so I wanted to create this book based on someone who's actually experiencing this, is now comfortable with this and showing the experiences. And then my part is to share with you why they're doing this and why this is going on. And then at the end, I think we left a couple pages of just blank, like a notepad, where you
Mhm.
can take your notes and work with your home as well.
Well, you're right about Hollywood. Uh, Today, the big thing is everything's evil, and you have to get out. It's Satan himself has come to your home, and but that seems to what sells television today.
Yeah, and I'll share this with you, Steve. And I may have shared this Saturday, but I'm very proud. I've been on major networks, but here recently, I've been in this business 20 years. I've built a reputation now, but the people know who I am. But I've actually had a couple of network shows, television shows, that that in the last 8, 10 months have approached me and asked me to be on the show. I turned it down because I didn't fit, and I didn't want to. They wanted me to be something I really wasn't, and that's something I'll never do. And so I'm very proud to share that you know, and I'm going to say this: the shows on television has been very helpful to bring up the level where individuals can acknowledge the paranormal.
Hmm.
You mentioned Jason and Grant. I mean, their show kicked this off, and I'm very thankful and grateful for them doing that. But there's shows that are just taking it a little bit too far, and we're getting more and more. I just saw a list today of new shows being developed on, and it's like, oh my gosh, So, but I've always said this: they're all friends of mine on there. I know them. They're all friends of mine on me. They're great people, but fear sells tickets.
Yes.
And so and sales ratings. So I'm going to share this. When you watch those shows, I want you to watch those shows because it helps you to learn, it helps you to grow, and it helps you to ask questions. But at the same time, please understand that you might see a 1 hour show, but it may have taken 8 to 12 hours to film that show.
5 days. They usually
Sometimes
take about 5 days.
some days every day, every day.
Yeah.
I was on one for Travel Channel, and we were there like at 8 o'clock that morning, and they finally got to my part like at 10 o'clock at night, and you just sat, you know, you just
Well,
sat.
it's interesting because when we were doing investigations, people were saying to us, "No, that's not the way you do this." I was like, "Excuse me," but they had seen Zach or somebody on TV doing it a different way, and it's actually what made me when I wrote my two books on it, and there's going to be a third, the final series of that, but
Good.
the paranormal not as seen on TV. Because you know as well as I do, what you're seeing on television is not what really goes on in a paranormal investigation.
Yeah.
Like you say, 5 days of filming to get that 15 minutes that they
Yep.
show you with commercials and stuff, it's like 15 minutes worth of stuff. Most of the times you're sitting in the room as an investigator, I've done many a time sat in an empty room saying, "What did I do wrong in life? Okay, why am I sitting in an empty room talking to myself? Okay, what happened? Okay, did I hit my head when I was younger or something? I you start to question it. But yes, a lot of the stuff is different, and you're right. The shows helped us a lot.
Hmm.
Actually, Grant's comment to me when I told him that was, he said, "But you don't understand, Steve." He says, "I was still working for Roto-Rooter." He said, "So I had to go to people's homes to clean out their drains, and they'd be looking at us like, that's the strange guy from TV, okay, who thinks there's ghosts everywhere, which is it kind of humorous in itself." Now, one of the things that you mentioned, I really thought was really, really good. You were talking about how ghosts will slam a door. They'll do something to try to grab your attention. And as you put it, as like a neglected child, that's to get their attention. And I know Jen and I have this habit when we're on investigation, when not much is happening, we just start talking about something else, as if we're not even in the room investigating it. Because we found if we ignore it, okay, it gets a little upset and activity will start up again. I mean, it's a two-sided coin there.
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting because when people hear a door slam, like at Poachtown the other day, a friend of mine, one of our members did a walkthrough tour for Daryl that's there. And this door slammed down the hallway. And we're talking about people that was in the armed services that were out, okay, jumped about 15 feet and wanted to leave, you know. And right away they're like, oh my God, that's something evil that's there. And I think a lot more groups and a lot more people have to understand that a door slamming or, a bang on a wall sometimes is not something evil, but it's the spirit's way of trying to catch your attention.
Absolutely. I share if you was in their shoes, when you do things like that, where we use the five senses we have to
Mhm.
hear that to let you know that they're with you and they're around you. You mentioned Door Slave. I got to tell you a quick story on that. We did the film The Possessed for Sci-Fi Network a few years ago, and my buddies Chris and Phil Booth and Keith Age was there, and we were doing the filming, and we was in the home, and they wanted to go into the father's room, and I said, no, I don't think he wants us to go in that room, and they kept insisting we go in that room, and we actually, I stood, one foot was in the room, the other foot was in the other room. It was like I'm going to respect you, but I got to still film. And they actually went in the room and they were filming, and all of a sudden the door in the room that we came from just slammed as loud as you can hear it on the film. And I've never, I've always said, I've said this for years: white man can jump. Because when that door slammed, I saw my three buddies jump up. And like, and actually, Chris said, "I think we need to leave this room." And I said, "You think?" And again, all that person was doing was he wasn't saying I'm going to hurt you. He was saying I asked you to respect me and not go in that room, but they did
Mhm.
anyway. So it's like, okay, I'm going to let you know I'm here, and that's what he did. So yeah, so just look at it as, and again, we go back to everything that we don't understand or is not reality. We automatically associate that with fear, and fear is usually a negative entity or an unknown entity. And it's most often it's not. It's the other way around. If and I've been to every place you can think of in the country. I've been there, and every time we've had something like that, all they're telling me is, do you know I'm here now? They want us to know they're there, and
Right.
they're helping us. I call them tour guides.
Yeah, they're acknowledge. They want us to acknowledge their presence, that they
Right.
are there. Although I would really, this must have been a long time ago, because I'd love to see Keith Age run out of a room.
Well, no, he didn't run. He jumped a little bit, but he didn't run.
Yeah.
And by the way, if we mentioned Keith Age, I got to say this because we've been doing this for 20 years. He's my older, uglier brother.
Hmm. Well, Keith's going to be on the show in actually in a few weeks also
Well, he'll
as
probably
well.
say I'm the older, uglier brother. So
Now, in the book, well, I'm going to go to. So basically, I want to wrap up that one book. One of the most important things you mentioned in there said keep events, times, and places well documented. And
excellent.
many people don't do that because I know when we go to an investigation, it's like, okay, tell us what happened. Well, I don't remember what room it happened in or what time of the day it happened,
Mhm.
etc. They need to.
Yes. Yes, because and the reason is, Steve, is because they may find that time it happened may be significant to the energy of the individual, the loved one spirit that is associated with their life, or
Mhm.
it might be if it's a certain day, it may be a recognition of that day for something for that. Again, just think about this: if you lived in your house for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, or if you worked at a place for many many years, you have memories built there, you have experiences built there. Who better to share with us about the place than those who actually have experiences and memories there, and that's them. So oftentimes they're trying to help us when we go into historic locations, and do investigations. I was just in Virginia here a while back at a battlefield. They want us to know. Who better to tell me about the battle there than those who actually experienced it. So just keep that in mind. Yes, I do. I do share that you should document if your house is active, or if your residence is active, or your place you're working at is active. Make note of the time it happened, the date it happened, and even the year it happened.
And you might actually see a pattern
Yeah.
taking place by writing it down as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now, as I said in the intro, I've read all the books. Okay, I really did this week. I went. One of the
Thank
things
you.
about this show is I went to a crash reading course again. Okay, of let's read a book a week. Okay, sometimes two or three books in one week.
That's
But
great.
my actual favorite was Stepping Stones.
Thank you.
Okay, I really did. Of all of them that I read, I actually enjoyed that book more. Um, and it's funny because your daughter states something in the book, and she says you don't need to be a psychic to know your loved ones are around you. You know because you feel it.
That's
And I
right.
think many times people just ignore those signs that are all around them. I've heard even you say, that you're finding pennies or something or nickels laying around someplace. That's their way of acknowledging that they're still there with you.
Yeah, and I share this. I share this a lot. I've been sharing this a lot for a lot of years now too. That, um, and again, think about this. If you were in their shoes, you would want your loved ones here to know that you're okay, that you're still living, and so you would give them signs physically, um, feeling sensitive, things like that to let you know they're still with you. I give the example of you. I always say this first. You got to use logic. In other words, if you have a picture on the wall and it's a picture of a loved one that's passed and it suddenly falls off the wall, but at the same time you had a 6.4 earthquake, I think the earthquake had something to do with it. But if the picture falls off the wall, here's what a lot of individuals do is it falls off the wall and they look and they say, "Oh, that's a coincidence. It just fell off," and they put it back up and not think about it. What you should do when you have a sign like that is you should acknowledge it first. Feel what you're feeling. If you pick up the picture and it's your grandmother or your mom and you look at it and you say, "I think my mom did something." Don't second guess that. And then once you acknowledge that, think about what's going on in your life at this time. Why would they want to come and let you know they're with you? What's going on? Maybe something maybe it's coming up, or maybe it's something that you're trying to decide what to do. There's something going on in your life that they want you to know they're here to help. So pay attention to those signs. We always hear a lot in this industry. They give us pennies, they give us dimes, they flicker the lights, feathers fall. But there's also others as well. A good example of that here in my home. Steve, I have activity in my home. Can you believe that?
Oh, we have activity in our home too. Yes, I can 100% believe that.
Well, just a couple Christmases ago, I was my schedule was crazy, and I put my tree up for Christmas, and fortunately, it's one of those pop up trees, and all the
Hmm.
lights and everything are still on it.
Yep.
So I popped it up and I set it in the living room, and I had the container of the ornaments sitting in next to it, and it's like I'll get to those later. I'll just get to those later because I had something else I need to get done. So I went back in my office in the back of the house, and I went to my office, and I was working. All of a sudden, I hear a clink, 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 and I thought, "What was that?" And I have a carpeted living room, but when you come into the foyer, when you come in, it's a tile. It's linoleum and tile. So I went in there. I went into the living room, and I looked, and there was one of the ornaments. Now I had the top. I had a cover on the top. It was shut, but one of those ornaments from that container was sitting in front of the door, and so it had bounced over there somehow or moved over there somehow. So I picked it up and I looked at it and I said, "Okay, who's here and what do you want me to know?" And the first thing I heard was, "Finish the tree." And I didn't know why, but I went ahead and I thought, okay. So I finished that tree that evening. The very next day, I had a session, and the lady came to the door, and I opened the door, and she walked in, and she looked over at my tree, and she started crying. And it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks before Christmas, and she started crying, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I already know he's here." And I said, "What?" And she said, "I asked that when I came to your house, if your Christmas tree was already decorated, and because this person loved Christmas, and if you had your tree up and you had all the ornaments and everything on your tree, I knew they'd be here today. And your tree's up." And I thought, that's who was telling me to get that tree up. It wasn't for me; it was for the person coming the next day. So they give you different signs like that. So pay attention. Just pay attention and don't second guess them.
But it's funny you talk about the pictures. My One of my earliest memories uh, was my grandmother. Italian grandmother. She pictures on a dresser. Okay, 3, 4 rows deep. Of her sons, her grandchildren, and stuff. And one of the pictures, she was sitting in the living room and she heard a crash inside the bedroom. And she got up and looked, and it was in like the third row back in the middle. This picture was on the floor, glass broken. And it was my Uncle Anthony, her son, was still alive. She picked up the phone and called it. She just had that inkling. And the paramedics had just pronounced him dead. He was 36 years old. He suffered a heart attack and died basically on the spot. So, yes, you need to pay attention to all those things. And see, in my head, as child growing up, that's impressionable in my head. And then when I see a full bodied apparition, I was like, okay, here we go. There's something else more here that I need to learn about. And, our house, like yours, there's in and out, constant. Especially if we go on an investigation, they come and visit us before we go.
Yeah.
So if I know if there's activity going on in my home, I know I'm in for a good investigation when I get to their home because they've already been here, in my house. And, people say, how do you know? I said, well, you know, if a cat's sitting up and staring at a corner, okay, cats will just stare at the corner just all day long. But if a dog sits there and stares at that corner and keeps staring at that corner, dogs, I believe, have ADHD. Oh, look, the ball over here. Okay, hey, my treat's over here. Okay, look up. Someone's at the door. I can smell another dog. So if they're sitting there and they're staring at that same spot, pay attention because something's going on right there. And a lot of people, like you say, just don't pay attention to everything that's going on around you. It's afterwards they look back and say, he was right. Okay, we should have been paying attention to that because there was something actually going on. Now, we started talking a little about this before we went on to the air. Um, that many people are overwhelmed with sharing the messages from their loved ones day in and day out. And as I said, I got a glimpse of you after the gallery reading. Sitting in the corner, you were completely toast at that point for a little bit. But your messages that we talked about give inspiration to people to move forward and to move onward. And you mentioned inspiration appears in many different forms. What are some of those forms of inspiration?
Living, just life daily is an inspiration. And you said this earlier, I believe, if not on the air, but before the air, that one thing I share is that we are to you believe what you feel inside. You know, if you don't believe in this, that's okay. If that's how you feel inside. Now, in that one of the books I wrote is like I share that if you're skeptical, it's perfectly fine because if we all knew knew the same thing, same knowledge, no one would learn, no one would gain knowledge. So we are different in beliefs because for a reason, but just have the comfort in knowing in some way that life is valuable, that life is continual, and so that's an inspiration to me. It's just getting up in the morning and just saying, inspired. And another inspiration is, and it's been an inspiration for me for all my life, is knowing that we don't end here. Once it's individuals, there's some individuals that think, I don't know how they actually get inspired through the day, because if you think this is all there is, then you will say, I'll do all I can here, but that's it. Then you're not really being inspired about what life's all about, the value of life itself. So really have the comfort in some way of knowing that your loved ones are around and life is continual. Uh, there's inspiration just talking. You and I tonight, you're inspiring me. We're getting inspiration to others tonight. Just your life daily is an inspiration, and just sharing with others. Um, Giving a thank you, and when you get up, when you wake up tomorrow, just say thank you, because you're going to have a day. No one else is going to have a day like you. You have a day just created just for you. No one's going to have that exact same day. So there's so many inspirations, and the more you acknowledge them, the more you recognize them, you're going to find your life is going to be even more inspirational in itself.
Well, it's kind of interesting because that actually was a great segue into the next question, which was the why me, okay, aspect. And, it's kind of interesting because I have the IPF, but never once have I ever said, why me? Or having one of those little pity parties. They have, even when I was diagnosed as a diabetic, when I was 50 years old, the doctor said, well, you have type 2 diabetes. And my first answer to him was, okay, so what do I do? And he goes, well, that's a good attitude. I was like, would you want me to sit here and cry, bang my feet on the floor and okay, I have it. So what's next? And it's the same thing with the IPF. It's like, I know I have it. What do I do? Um, a lot of people, you talk about the old saying, you can't cry over spilt milk. Okay. And, you know, I've said that many times. I think it's a secret of life, personally, my own personal secret of life. I can tell you, watch your elbow. That glass of milk is on the counter. Okay, you're going to knock it off. Oh, no, I know it's there. And if you're Italian like me, you talk with your hands a lot. So it's, so it's like, no, watch your hands and your arm because you're going to knock it over. No, 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 I'm okay. And then, of course, poof, they knock it over. Okay, so you could be the Italian, and I could go off on my rant and rave about it, but nothing I tell you is actually going to pick that glass of milk back up, put it back in the glass, and put it on the counter. So it's like, okay, so what do we? Let's just move forward. Okay, here's the rag, clean it up. Listen to me next time. Okay, and going on with that, um, why do so many people fall into that self pity?
I feel like there's two reasons. I feel that we are actually conditioned, and even at a young age, we're conditioned to look at things on the negative side than the positive side. When you was talking about the spilt milk, I looked at it right away in my mind because it's all about the mindset. In my mind, I thought, well, I was fortunate enough to have milk, so I may have spilled it, but I was fortunate enough to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really feel, and that's why I had the master class Saturday as well, because I shared this, because what society is throwing at us and it's conditioning us that everything that goes on, we should be afraid of it. We should look at it in a negative aspect. You know, COVID, with everything thrown at us, COVID, gas prices, government, is, well, we won't go into that,
Right.
but but I mean, you have to recondition your mind, your mindset. You have to recondition, and you're going to find if you recondition. And I shared this Saturday. You got to elevate yourself above. I'm not saying stick your head in the sand, but one thing I shared Saturday was there's so many individuals, and it's because we're trained this way that they get up in the morning, get their cup of coffee, and the first thing to do is turn on the news or they turn on the television news, and the first thing they hear on the news, you do it, check it out. First thing they do is go through the most fearful, negative thing that's going on in the world. And they feed us that. Well, if you're starting your day with that, what's going to happen is you're going to take that. You may not know it, but you're going to take that with you, and your rest of your day, you're going to have a negative mindset. Instead of watching television, I shared this Saturday, try for 27 straight days. Instead of watching the news on Saturday morning, try listening to some good music. Try having a good breakfast with your significant other. Try to read a good book. That's what I do every morning, and read something motivational or watch some motivational video. Just do that for just 20 minutes that you would put in the news, and watch how your day will change. We're like this today, Steve, because, and I'm getting on a soapbox here, but it is because we've been conditioned this way. When we were young, we were taught if you do this, you're going to go here, and so we're conditioned to look at all the things negative. You see it on my Facebook. I do this every morning, every day. I post
Mm-hmm.
something on there, and I started Facebook. We started Facebook for a reason, for me to get something out there positive every day. And there's no going to be no rant and rave from me. Rant from me. It's going to be, here's something good to look at today. Take a look at it. And I'm seeing people change on this actually. I'm starting to see people change their mindsets because your mindset, your emotional set is going to affect your physical set. And it makes total sense. If you are a piece of cheese and you're around and you're surrounded by cheeses that are molded and got green on it and just spoiled, guess what's going to happen to you if you're in the middle of that? Eventually, you're going to be molded and spoiled
It's important
yourself.
too. Yep.
So what you want to do as well is get yourself in an environment that's going to be good, fresh cheese. You know, if you're going to be a cheese, you can be a good, fresh cheese and be in that and get the person who you really are. So I think we're going to continue to see changes. There's a lot of great motivational speakers out there. Some people will say, "Oh, that's hogwash. That's not that don't work." Well, you haven't really tried to because I'm promising you, if you try it for, like I said Saturday, for 27 days, do some of these golden nuggets talk about, it would change your life. It changed me personally. I mean, I'm not going to say I was like this all my life, but for the last 21 plus years, I have been. I've always looked at everything positive through my life, but there was times when I had those challenges. You was talking about the challenge you're going through, and in one of my books, I think I wrote, for every challenge in life, there's a reward. If you look at every challenge you went through, and every challenge is a temporary challenge, but if you look at every challenge you went through, you learned something from that. There was a reward from in some way from that. So challenges are good for us because it helps us grow.
Well, in all honesty, I was one of those people that wakes up in the morning. I'm a little bit more the digital age, where I'd make myself something to eat, bring it up here to my office, which is upstairs here, and turn on the computer, and the first thing I'm reading is Fox News. My homepage for my browser was Fox News. Okay, it could be CNN, it could be any news station. But you're right, the first thing you start is reading all this negative stuff, about the war going on, the Ukraine and, Biden $300 billion, I mean, go on and on. And then you actually, I, it wasn't until you pointed it out on Saturday, I realized you start to go into that mode constantly all day long. I mean, Jen, there's a couple of times she's wanted to kill me in the car, where I've gone on and on about something our government is doing. Okay, I won't, pick sides there, but something that our government's doing, and she will turn to me and she goes, "But there's nothing you can do about that. Maybe at election time, but you sitting here, actually, as she puts it, you sitting here bitching to me about it is just bringing me down. Okay, nothing's going to change." And I realized that a long time ago, someone said, "Don't associate with people that are always talking bad things, because all that's going to do is bring you down."
Exactly.
When you do it, you need to associate and surround yourself with positive minded people. And it's a tough thing because I sign on. The very first thing when I open the browser is I want to read that news. It's programmed in me,
Yep.
and I fought it. Now, on Facebook, like you say, you put something inspirational. I like to put something funny.
I love them.
Okay, I mean,
I look
really,
for them every morning.
yeah. I mean, I think for me, I know myself. When I laugh, I just feel better about myself and everything else. I mean, I even forget Biden and all that, Trump and all that stuff. I just get engrossed with the jokes that are there. And so many people have said to me, you've said it to me, some of your workers that actually work with you have told me they look forward to the morning because they know they can get on there and get a good laugh. I try to give them six of them, okay, every morning,
Yeah.
So, but because it starts your day differently. Even on Facebook, we get caught up with, we can sympathize with someone's problems, but we can't get caught up in their problems as well. We have to acknowledge it, but we have to keep it at a distance to us.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to talk about the masterclass is going to be my next question, actually.
Okay.
But I think it's so important to become a more positive person and to become much more in tune with yourself. I don't want to be that cranky person she's cussing out in the car. Okay. And it takes a lot, Jen. It takes
Oh
a
yeah,
lot to tick her off. Okay.
yeah.
I know the buttons. I've been married almost 20 years now. Okay. I guess I could just go for those right away. They say go for the jugular. Okay. I guess just some of the things I say, I'm used to that. That's the way I was brought up, was to talk about that. You got corporate America. Okay, I
Mhm.
worked corporate America for too long, and you go to work and everybody's talking about the news. Did you see this? Did you see that? Discussion around the water cooler, as they used to call it. Things that were going on, and it's hard to push that away. To get away from all of that and just be myself. And learn more about who I am. And that's I'm going to use that as a segue to the masterclass. To me, that was one of the main things that I myself got out of the masterclass, was to be more in tune with myself and to stop all this, I call it noise, going on around me, to close that noise out. I mean, I have been doing since probably about 30 years. Every morning when I wake up, I've always said, thank you, God, for another day. I've
Right.
always said that. Because you told us to. I've always said that. I mean, I'm Christian, so I believe in that. Show the cross. Um, but I've now followed some of the other stuff you've mentioned to do. Okay, I usually wait because she gets out of bed first, so I can lay there a little bit, and I don't have to get right out of bed. I can do all the things we talked about,
Yeah.
and I know myself. By the time I go inside to make breakfast, or give the dogs the treats first, okay? Because they're the ones who usually wake me up. It's like 10 o'clock. How are you not up and giving me a treat yet? So they'll lick my feet. Literally, if my foot is off the side of the bed, the big dog will come over and start licking my foot, okay, to wake me up. I mean, they want me awake. Or the little dog who sleeps on the bed will wake me up, and then she just wants my spot of the bed. Okay, so it's time to get up so you can take that spot of the bed. So I literally have a few more minutes now, peacefully being retired, to sit and relax a little bit more. Now, explain to people it's the perfect time to go into Life's Gift. And for all those people who've been listening and keep hearing Masterclass, they may be wondering what we're talking about. Give them a little insight. First off, what is Life's Gift?
Well, Life's Gift was formatted when I first started. I knew that when I knew it was time for me to come out in the public my abilities, and again to help to serve others. I didn't feel comfortable by coming out and having a website, Rick Hayes, and so I needed a logo or something that would represent me. And so I'll never forget it, Steve. I was sitting at a desk, and I wasn't even at home. I was at someone else's. I was at one of my family members' house. I was sitting at a desk late one night, and I was working on what I was going to come up with. And a loved one of mine actually came up behind me in spirit and said, because I was like, what am I going to call this? And a loved one in spirit came up behind me, and they said, Rick, life is a gift. And I immediately thought, life's gift. That's what it's all about. And and the logo just started flowing. If you look at the logo, it's got two lines underneath the life's gift, the word life's gift. That is your path of purpose. If you see that there's a little bitty asterisk, looks like a starburst sign above the eye. That's your loved ones helping you through life. And then life's gift and that's how life's gift started. Now, the last few years, it's kind of blended in because being in this industry and being, humbly known now, uh, Rick Hayes is down in the logo itself. But just about probably 8, 9 years ago, I was sitting there and I thought, a business advisor told me, they said, you can need to come up with a brand, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, Chip Coffee's already using the scarves, you know. So I grew this, and that now stuck with me. So because it's on shirts and everything, but I was sitting there again one night and I thought, okay, what word can I use that represents what I feel? And I immediately heard the word believe. And when I saw the word believe, I saw the capital E, B, capital E, and I thought it's all about be. Just be you. Just be what life is. Just be what the purpose is. And so that's been my brand for the last several years. And I always share this: when a door of opportunity or a door of opportunity opens for you, and you're going down your path, and door of opportunity for you, don't stand there and ask why the door opened. Walk through that door, because it's guiding you. And that's exactly what happened to me with the master class. For the last 6, 7 years now, I've been life coaching as well, and that was formatted because I had so many individuals coming to me and saying after a session, saying, "You brought so much comfort for me in knowing the next part of life. But Rick, what about life here today? What about my marriage? What about my career? What about?" And so when I do something, I give it 110%, and I go to the best for guidance, for knowledge, and I shared this Saturday. I've learned from the best, and I really admire him. He's done so much in so many years. His name is Tony Robbins. He's taught me so much, and in the life coaching end of it, and so. But what happened then about a year and a half ago? I was then hearing individuals coming into my office and was afraid of the COVID. It was afraid of the gas prices and not even getting out of the house, changed their whole lifestyle. And I started thinking, I thought, you know what? It's time. It's Something's telling me it's time. People are fed up. People are tired. People are I wanted to share that everyone is born with these abilities, and they want something more. And so I started working on creating what I call the master class. And it is all about what you saw Saturday. It's all about elevating, rising above, by bringing up the vibrations. You're not sticking your head in the sand. You know what's where, what's going on around the world, but you don't let it affect you personally. I could not understand why people were so affected personally because of what was going on in Ukraine, and they're living in the United States. It's like, okay, you got to feel sorry for them, you got to feel sympathy for them, but that shouldn't affect you in your life each day. You should still be positive. And the other thing I did, and I'm sharing this tonight because that was our first master class this past Saturday, and thank you again for being a part. But we learned a lot, and one of the things we learned is we got so much feedback from individuals after Saturday saying, "We heard about your master class. When you going to have the next one?" So we are going to have at least one next year, and on the 2023 schedule. But the other thing I did there, and you saw that, is I stepped with you what I do to prepare for my day, what I do to end my day, what I do to prepare for a session and connect with the loved ones. And I gave, I gave you everything that I do. And as I shared with you that day, you don't follow me. You don't do exactly what I do. You incorporate what you feel, but I shared with you some of the things we did. So that's a master class. As you can tell, I'm very excited about it. I had a fantastic day. Yeah, I was physically exhausted because I'm in my 60s now, so it's kind of like, it's like it's
Know
getting
the
to
feeling.
me. But and again, going on that, I shared this Saturday. Up here, will take care of here. Up here, will take care of the physical. Your
Mhm.
mindset, your emotional set. Think about it. If you get up, what we talked about, if you get up in the morning, Steve, and you just dread the day, your mind is telling you it's going to affect your physical body because it's going to say you're deteriorating. You're going to be sick. You're going to be ill. You're going to have these afflictions. But if your mindset is saying, "No, I'm going to have a great day. I'm going to be healthy today. Whatever I have inside me, COVID is not going to bug me." And you have that mindset, and it's amazing what happens. But yeah,
You
I
didn't
really
hear me when you started your reading session. When you first came back out, I said, "Gee, we know where you've been because you had discussed what you do before, a gallery session." So,
I
but you
did.
didn't hear me when I said that. But
No. I sure did. And you know what was great? We incorporated the gallery session that evening. And what was great about that was after teaching and after sharing, and we had three other great speakers there that gave some what I call golden nuggets. I learned from them tremendously, and I want to thank them on air tonight for being there and for sharing their expertise with us. But I loved having the gallery that evening because you all knew and you all had opened up your own spiritual abilities, your spiritual core, and you could feel it more. I just know you did.
Well, people, I mean, there was nobody that really left that room dissatisfied with everything that had taken place that day. I mean, there's just no way you could have you. I don't want to say cram, but put so much into an entire day. And and even for us, like one of the first questions you asked me, you got home okay?
Yeah.
For because for us it was about 2.5 hours to get there, and I thought, wow, I got a long drive, and yet I spoke to a couple of people that were in there that had longer drives.
Yeah, we had people from out of state kind of came in,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean,
I
and
appreciate
everybody
that.
sort of connected with each other that was in there. I actually had to laugh because the gentleman that's, I guess he's a farmer, the young gentleman that was sitting
Yeah.
on the opposite side there, at one point somebody had asked him what he weighed, and he said 235 pounds. And I said, I turned to Jen right away. I was like, oh, this is just wrong. And she goes, what? I was like, he weighs 235 pounds. I weigh 235 pounds. How come I'm overweight and fat and nobody's saying a word to him? Okay. Which, I guess maybe I didn't sprout up as high as he did, for his weight. But I know that people that were there connected with each other. There was a very much open connection with each other. And especially as the day went on, more and more people felt comfortable with each other and started discussing things with each other.
And that's what's great. That was what inspired me. I actually could see that happening. I could see that you were interacting, and we made it interactive through the day. But I could see where new. I have you just shared with me that there was two or three that has contacted you
Hmm.
and Facebook friend you, and I have there was another person that shared with me that they said I met a new friend today, and we're going to stay in touch, and we're going to go visit each other. I mean, that's another part of what that was all about, is for individuals to interact, to share their thoughts, and learn from each other. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
The two women that were sitting behind me, one, I guess her husband had just passed away recently from same kind of breathing, something with the lungs and stuff. And there was the other woman next to her. And it was after the lunch break, the 3 hour break there. And I turned to her, and they were talking just to each other. And I said, so you guys know each other? And I said, no, we just met sitting here. Okay, we ended up going out to eat someplace together, and they sat and talked to each other the entire time that
Oh,
they were out to eat. And it
that's
was like,
great.
okay, wow, okay, And even the woman made sure she came back and told me before we left, have a great day. I hope everything stays well, with the IPF. And, I know it's going to. I'm, again, that positive thought.
Wow.
Okay, and I really believe, I've told Jen from the start, she's like, but you could die 5 years from now, or 10, 15 years from now. I was like, yeah, well, that put me in my 80s anyway. I was like, I don't know how much longer I'll be around after that anyway. My dad turns 91, okay, in October, so my grandmother lived to
Way to
100.
go, Dad.
Yeah, they're still with it there, but I'll be happy in my 80s, trust me. But I also believe that there's going to be a cure for it. They're right on the cusp of it right now. So I'm not,
Make it happen.
yeah, I'm not, I'm going to, you can will yourself into letting something happen. And I believe it's going to happen and
Absolutely.
stuff. And I don't worry about it every day. In fact, for anyone who wonders what IPF is, I decided I was supposed to have, I don't want to say who the guest was, had to cancel out, but we're rescheduling them later on. Uh, I decided to do a show next week on IPF, but it's not going to be with doctors. It's not going to be with medical personnel. There's a Facebook group that I belong to, a private group for people with IPF, and I grabbed 3 or 4 people that are at what I would say different stages of IPF, and we're just going to have an open like roundtable discussion on IPF, what it's all about. Um, a
Wow.
lot of people are afraid to tell family. I had someone actually send me a message on Facebook. How did you tell your family and friends what you had? And it's like, it's nothing to feel guilty about. I mean, what do you feel guilt that someone has cancer? It's something that happens. Um, I actually, for a while, made up a business card saying what IPF was and, the prognosis and everything else from it. But the most important thing I put on there is please don't treat me any different. My best friends still, I'm Steve to them. It's like I was sitting down, like, come on, get off your butt. Let's get Jen is the same way. She's like, the backyard needs to be mowed. Like this morning, it's like, but don't you understand? I'm on pain pills for my back. The backyard needs to be mowed. Okay, you don't get any exceptions for all of this. You go out and you keep doing it, and I think it ties back in with that master class that we're just in that shell, as you talked about. Our body is just a shell. The mind has to keep going all the time. And even retired, I'm doing more now than I was doing when I was working, believe it or not. Thank God with the recession, I think I would have been crying right now if I had to rely on income coming in, other than the government paying me. Uh, but I'm watching now more people experiencing what you're talking about. More people I mean, we talked to someone like Christopher Booth,
Mhm.
who you and I both know very, very well.
Mhm.
Okay, most of the times, I should say, when you speak to him, most of the times, okay, you get a very spiritual Christopher Booth who talks from the heart, who talks from deep down inside. And I still get that from him when, the last show we were all at, which was Keith Dage's last, the Paracon he does every year. I'm
Yeah.
drawing a blank on it right now. But remember, you were around the wall from me and you were next to them.
Mhm.
But I was right on the opposite side of Chris. So all I had was that little curtain in between. I'm not going to tell you how many times I was sitting there talking to somebody and all of a sudden got goosed or or slapped off the back of the head as a joke from Chris, who was just like he'd seen me reach his hand behind, and like just smack me from behind and stuff, because he wanted to make sure that I did not fall into that mind frame of being tired or being under. And I think more people today, the world would be a better place if more people were their genuine self. And stuff like your classes and stuff, and even your website helps bring that out of people. Even the life coaching that you do.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. And just like this show tonight, we're inspiring individuals tonight. Those that don't want to accept it, they probably went off and it's like, well, we're not. I'm not going to listen to all this, But that's their choice. That's one of the another things I share. That's another great gift that we don't recognize, but each and every one of us upon birth on this earth was given the gift of choice and free will. How we want to believe, how we want to live our life, how we choose to affect others and so yeah, I mean, but we're seeing. I feel like that this is a need. This is something that is helping us right now to get through the things we're going through. And with your challenge right now, I loved your attitude when you said there is going to be a cure.
Hmm.
I am going to be cured of this, and having that mindset is going to heal your body.
And it's going to make even my heals my mind a lot better to deal with anything that would come from that. I was going to ask you a question. There was a question right there when you were talking, and poof, it went right out the window. Okay, that's old age. Okay, I'm sorry. That's just that's happening with older age.
You're right, Bob.
Oh, I remember exactly what I was going to say now. Okay, anyone who doubts Rick and Rick's abilities, Okay, I invite them to go to his website, Life's Gift, and schedule a reading with them, a private reading. He does it right here, and actually sits in the same room when he does it because I recognize the background when we did it. Okay, in that same room, and he does a one-on-one reading with you, and I can tell you, you want to talk about right on the mark. Okay, we were even talking about the reading you did for me Saturday. Okay, in the group there, which for a second I was completely took me out of left field and I was confused. Okay, but it wasn't until after I got home or the next day that I realized what the message was that I was getting. And I think that anyone who doubts psychic mediums in general needs to actually go to one. Okay, get a reading from them, and you're going to change your mind because there's no way. You know, there are phony psychics out there. You and I both know it.
Mhm.
We probably know a couple of them. You know, so or their abilities, like you said, that one woman that told you that she was reading people in the street or at the supermarket, and her abilities were starting to lack a little bit. I know you don't look for the fame and fortune.
No.
You run the other way from the spotlight. I mean, I've known you like 10, 12 years now. Okay, you go the opposite direction. They turn on the light. Where did Rick just go? Okay, he was just here a minute ago. But I remember the gallery reading at one of Keith Age's events that we were at there, and you went around the room, and everyone in that room got a reading.
That's
And I
right.
remember some people, I mean, even my friend Elvin and his wife Shauna, that was there, he still to this very day says, wow. I mean, that's how he describes it. It's like, wow. And it's like, yeah. And in our reading that you did for Jen and then you did for me, what I laugh and can remember is my mom, the pushy Italian mom, coming through on Jen's reading towards the end.
Yeah.
And you had to tell her, I remember, you had to tell her to wait her turn because it was from my reading and you weren't done with Jen yet. Okay, you still had to do mine. But I don't know, those who know me, and it's probably those who know me who are actually watching the show. Okay, I'm very careful who I bring onto the show. Okay, and I brought Rick on only because I know Rick really, really well. And I just attended a show, his masterclass on Saturday, and we're actually maintaining his website right now as well. So yeah, so we're sort of connected a little
But
bit
you're
there.
exclusive to me.
Yes, but he keeps putting up these pictures of the bald spot in the back of my head. Okay, that I'm going to be called Monk soon. Okay, that's going to be my nickname. But I invite you to go out to the website lifesgift.com. Okay, you can see when his next classes are, all his appearances and the events that he's going to. He lists them there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to see you this coming month at NonCon at
Right.
Potsdam because you're going to be somewhere else
Right.
and stuff. But we'll be seeing each other shortly
Oh
at
yeah.
some event. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to add to what you share because one of the things I shared with you Saturday, and I've kept this with myself, is you're to have confidence in yourself, but you to have humble confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in this industry now for 20 years, and I've seen those who are they have the abilities, or they're looking more at the limelight and the spotlight and the financial, and they're no longer doing this. You got to understand why you have the abilities and what your abilities are for. There's two pieces of advice I give to everyone that comes to me in person for a session, or on, like you said, on virtual now, on telephone. There's two pieces of advice I give to everyone, and that is, if you go to a psychic medium, number one, please understand, if any one of them says they're 100% accurate, walk away, because they can misinterpret. They're still in the physical body. The second is, if you go to one, they tell you that someone's only got so much time to live, or someone's or you only got so much time to live. Run away, because we're not to do that. The
Mm-hmm.
third is, if they share with you, if it feels to you that they're only looking at the money, what they're getting on the money. In fact, in other words, if they're saying you need to call me back in 2 weeks or next, walk away from that. For me personally, I share, if this is all you needed, this is all you needed. You don't need, and I actually do say this too, Steve. I always say, you don't need me to talk to your loved ones. They hear you. So just talk with them. They hear you. You don't have to talk out loud, just through thought, and they hear you. So,
You just stole my
so
last question. I was going to
good.
ask was about that. What advice do you have people that want to communicate with their loved ones? I mean, most people don't realize it's just as simple as talk to them.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Just talking to them, just like you and I are talking right now. Just talk
Mhm.
with them. If you're in the home by yourself, always share. If you're in the home by yourself, you can talk out loud if you feel comfortable. I don't advise it if you're out in the public, because people kind of look at you funny. But I mean, you can even thought thought is a communication. It's an energy of communication. And when they talk to me, it's literally like they're talking to me, but it's not through the mouth; it's through the thought. And again, I've learned that it's all what I get, and you know me, is whatever I get, I give it to you straight up. I do not share negative
Right.
messages. I do not share with you to be afraid of a wreck next week or anything like that. I share with you direction, and I try to put it in a positive way for you. And really that, because of that, a lot of the reasons is why I don't do a lot of the TV shows, and I'm not asked to be on certain TV shows, because they would rather have someone on there saying, "Oh, there's a demonic spirit around," and it's kind of like, "Why are you doing that?" Again, we go back. You're not going to get that from me. You're not going to get that from me.
The most we were ever asked, well, we did like my ghost story and a few others, but the most we were ever asked to do a TV show was a production company actually contacted us. They were doing people, naked and afraid, like you see those shows. They wanted naked paranormal investigators, and they wanted us to be on the show. And I remember my very first, me, words come out of my mouth sometimes that should be filtered before they come out. Okay, I said to the lady, I was like, "Ma'am," I was like, "Did you ever look at our website and see us?" I was like, "And look at our pictures. You really don't want to see us walking around nude. Neither does America, for that matter, either."
Well, wait a minute. Aren't you like that 235-pound muscle guy that was there
Yeah,
Saturday?
exactly. A 235-pound guy there. I guess I'm going to have to wear high heels or something to get up that high, platform shoes. It was kind of funny because I thought when I was preparing the stuff this week for the show that I was going to use your theme song that you were using in there. But then I said, no, YouTube is going to flag it for
Yeah.
copywritten song, so I better stay off of that. But again, it was a great motivational
Thank
thing
you.
for the crowd that was there. I mean, it gets people, starting to move and stuff. And we were actually commenting on what I call your DJ, okay? Because when we started, before you came out and we started the session, the first masterclass, he was playing Aerosmith, okay, ACDC and stuff. And I remember the gentleman that was sitting in the center section. There was only four guys there. So for when you people ask or wondering what I'm talking about, there really was a guy like me, actually almost like my twin on the other side, with the same kind of beard. And there was the tall farmer who weighed my weight. And there was the other gentleman that was there. And I remember we kicked up a conversation about, well, at least they're playing great music while we're waiting. And then when we came back from the break, after the long break before your gallery, all of a sudden he started playing something else. And I remember him turning to me and he said, "You knew it couldn't last forever."
Well, that's my video guy, Greg, and I'll do a shout
Yeah.
out to him. He does a great job with the video, and he does a great job with the music background and everything. So thank you, Greg, for that. I just saw we got a message here from someone, Purple Dolphin, and she's recognizing that I'm going to be at her house for a group reading on September 3rd. I'm looking forward to that, Purple Dolphin, and
Mhm.
looking forward to it. A group reading is actually, for those watching tonight, a group reading is, for me, a group reading is 10 or more individuals, and we get together in a group setting, and we just share the messages, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Purple Dolphin. 57.
The Purple
So,
Dolphin 57, yeah. You know, it's funny because I have the YouTube up here, but I also had my Word file that had my questions up, and believe it or not, it was covering where the people typed in, so I didn't even see it because when you said that, I was like, "Where is it
where's
on
it get?
Facebook or what?" And I moved the other way. I was like, "Oh shoot, okay." God knows when she asked or he or she asked that question. Okay, I didn't see it. Okay, that was up there, but
Well, you were probably thinking, "Oh, there he goes listening. He's listening
yeah,
to that
right. He's
there
yeah.
again."
Somebody up there is commenting right now, but I want to thank you for being on our show today. I
It's
mean,
been a
it's
pleasure, and I really thank you for giving me this opportunity to be a part, Steve.
now I highly recommend, and I don't do this a lot, but to read the books. Okay, you can find them on Amazon. Okay, or go to lifesgift.com. There's a link to purchase the books that are there. They are great books.
Thank
They're
you.
easy reading, and I don't mean that as an insult. They're just, I like books that are written in the language like we talk, instead of someone trying to teach us things.
That's
It's,
what you're going to get out of me.
yeah, well, yeah, I got a little too much in my first book. I had to like tone it down for the second one. But, I want to thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you very
And,
much.
to everyone that's out there, go to lifesgift.com. Okay, you can read more about Rick. You can learn about where his appearances are and what is Jordan Beck, Rick. Rick, your awesome stepping stone book put me in a positive mood before the start of the day.
Hmm.
That's
Thank you,
from Jordan
Jordan.
Beck. Yeah. So,
Appreciate it.
but thanks to everyone that came and listened here. And, I hope we run into each other soon, at some event. So,
And I
I'm going to,
always end with this: believe.
yes, exactly. Gee, I wonder where I've heard that before. This evening is an amazing person. I consider it a privilege personally to know him. Plus, he's helping me to learn more about how I can